The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome to the weekend. It is Friday, November 22nd, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. And that date also means it's got to be 50 years since the assassination of President John F. Kennedy at Dealey Plaza in Dallas. Of course, all of the news headlines are recounting the JFK assassination. And for today's Behind the Headlines, we're going to show you the pot connection with President John F. Kennedy and one of his former lovers who brought him pot and acid and may have paid for it with her life. We'll talk about that in Behind the Headlines right after our 420 radio news. In today's news, we've got an update on those Denver raids by the DEA and IRS. And it may be that some of these people were way out of compliance with the federal guidelines and the federal memo. So we'll take a look at that. We've also got the first recreational marijuana license being issued in Colorado. A court of appeals in Michigan has rejected a judge who calls weed the devil's weed. A rookie police officer in Buffalo is busted, and Washington State is flooded with applications for marijuana licenses. Also on today's show, it's Rockin' Friday, so we get to talk with Herb Thrasher, who'll be calling in. He's got a song that references the JFK assassination for today's Daily Toker Tunes. We'll talk to him about that at 20 after. Also on today's show at half past, we're looking forward to a call in from one of my favorite medical marijuana patients on the planet. Brave Michaela should be calling in at half past to give us an update on what's happening with her life, and let us talk to Canadad and find out what's going on in his blogging and activism as well. So stick around for that. And then at the end of the show, time for a radical rant. Yesterday I stepped into the Maradrama, and I shouldn't have done it, but I did. I stepped into the Maradrama, and today I was greeted with a request to fuck myself. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and a subsequent appearance today by Cheryl Schumann on Huffington Post Live that leaves me very, very disappointed, upset, and embarrassed by her. We'll talk about that in the Radical Rant. So stick around, enjoy your weekend. I'm going to try to, and we'll talk to you right after the break. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. And don't forget, coming up later tonight, we've got the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour with Herb Thrasher, 8 p.m. Pacific Time, 2 hours of metal and marijuana. I'll be here live with him as well, so tune in for that. And coming up at 5, we've got another episode of The Jody Emery Show from Canada. So thanks for being here on 420 Radio. Stick around.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
This is your 420 Radio News for Friday, November 22nd, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Fed raids on Colorado marijuana businesses seek ties to Colombian drug cartels, from the Denver Post. Colorado marijuana businesses raided this week by federal agents are being investigated for a possible connection to Colombian drug cartels, sources told the Denver Post on Friday. Investigators believe the businesses that were raided are all one big operation, a source said. Federal agents swarmed 14 locations, including dispensaries and grow warehouses in Denver, Commerce City, and Boulder County, according to sources. 2 homes were targeted. Investigators believe those targeted in the raids have been actively purchasing area dispensaries and grow houses over a sustained period of time. Federal officials wouldn't give specific reason for the raids other than to say one of the 8 federal concerns around marijuana have potentially been violated. Those concerns include trafficking marijuana outside of states where it has been legalized and money laundering. One of the target subjects identified in the search warrant is 50-year-old Juan Guadarrama, who pleaded guilty earlier this year in Miami in a racketeering case with connections to Colombian and Cuban gangs, according to court records and published reports. As part of the investigation, Guadarrama, a Cuban immigrant with deep ties to the Miami area, but who was living at the time in Denver, asked an undercover police officer to help him distribute 20 pounds of Colorado-grown marijuana a month in Miami, the Herald reported, citing police records. A Colorado official confirmed to the Herald that Guadarrama held a valid medical marijuana employee license. A spokeswoman for Colorado's Marijuana Enforcement Division could not immediately confirm the information for the Post. World's first recreational marijuana sales licenses issued in Colorado, from Huffington Post. The world's first recreational marijuana retail license was granted to a dispensary in Colorado this week. Annie's, located in the mountain and gambling town of Central City, was the recipient of the historic license. The Central City pot shop is owned by Strainwise, which owns 8 dispensaries in Colorado and hopes all 8 shops are approved for the recreational license, according to Westward. The first recreational marijuana shops in Colorado will open their doors for the first time in U.S. history on January 1st, 2014. State Court of Appeals upholds judge's disqualification in marijuana case, from the Press and Guide. The Michigan State Court of Appeals ruled November 14th that 19th District Judge Mark Summers was properly disqualified from hearing a case involving the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act because of comments he made in a different case regarding the drug. Summers previously had ruled that the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act violates the U.S. Constitution because state law can't supersede federal law. The Court of Appeals judges cited his references to marijuana as, quote, devil's weed, Satan's surge, and Satan's weed, end quote, and that he lectured those who have appeared before him on marijuana charges about how they have contributed to drug cartels and homicides in Mexico and other related areas. He also said in an interview that he felt the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act was unconstitutional. Buffalo rookie police officer fired after being charged with growing marijuana in his home, from Buffalo News. James Hamilton, the Buffalo police officer, wasn't celebrating Thursday after his arraignment on charges of operating a marijuana growing operation in the basement of his home. A 6-month investigation led by the police department also resulted in Hamilton's immediate dismissal from the force, on which he served for less than a year. A rookie cop who was recently named Officer of the Month by his union, Hamilton faces multiple drug and weapons charges in connection with the marijuana growing operation. Assistant U.S. Attorney Timothy C. Lynch said 82 marijuana plants and 4 pounds of loose marijuana were found in the basement of the home. Police also recovered a 12-gauge shotgun. Washington permit offices flooded with marijuana applications, from the Washington Times. Hundreds of hopeful marijuana business operators have flocked to local permitting authorities and filed applications to open pot shops. And that's in just the first week of the enactment of a state law that lets recreational sales and production commence. Early in the afternoon of Monday, 299 applications around the state had been received, as reported by the Daily Chronic. By Friday, that number had soared to 700 and counting, said Q13Fox.com, a local news station. The state, however, may scale back some of those hopes. The Liquor Control Board, which will oversee the new marijuana shops, says the state will award licenses to up to 334 stores. The applications are expected to be processed early next year. They're being accepted through December 17th. This has been your 420 Radio News for Friday, November 22nd, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines of the 50th anniversary of the JFK assassination and show you the links to pot and LSD in Kennedy's past and whether that led to the murder of one of his lovers. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back. Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today. Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go.
Fun, fun.
Oh, hello. I'm Big Daddy, and I want you to join me at the Funky Roller Ring. We're partying hard over here, baby. So stop on by, check out the funky grooves, and shake your booty too.
Don't get in too deep, brother. Don't get in too heavy. Don't get so you can move about.
Welcome back, everyone. Time for us to go behind the headlines. And as you probably are aware, today is the 50th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy at Dealey Plaza in Dallas, Texas. And I wanted to take this time to go behind that headline to give you a look at the president and his use of cannabis. We often report on the fact that Bill Clinton and George W. Bush and Barack Obama have all admitted to smoking pot, but the other 20th century president that we know smoked pot in his lifetime was John F. Kennedy. We get this from a book called John F. Kennedy, a biography that was written by Michael O'Brien, and it describes an affair that JFK had with Mary Pinchot Meyer, who was the former wife of CIA agent Cord Meyer and the sister of Washington Post editor Ben Bradley's wife, Tony. So she had connections with the Washington Post, she had a former CIA connection, and so on. In the book, it writes, quote, "On the evening of July 16th, 1962, according to Washington Post executive Jim Truitt, Kennedy and Mary Meyer smoked marijuana together. The White House was hosting a conference on narcotics in 2 months, and Kennedy joked about it to Mary. Truitt claimed he himself provided Mary with the pot. The president smoked 3 of the 6 joints Mary brought to him. At first he felt no effects, then he closed his eyes and refused a 4th joint. 'Suppose the Russians did something now,' he said." Kennedy allegedly told Mary that the pot isn't like cocaine and informed her that he would get her some cocaine. End quote. So we got Kennedy having his numerous affairs in the White House, using pot, suggesting that he uses cocaine. And then there's this suggestion of the use of LSD. And this was, as I started digging into this, I found this quite fascinating, is that Mary Pinchot Meyer, she had a biography was written of her by Nina Burley in a book called A Very Private Woman. And apparently after she got divorced from Cord Meyer, she became a well-bred ingenue, looking for fun and getting into trouble. Mary was bad, according to the writing here. And apparently she visited John F. Kennedy at the White House first in October of 61, and their relationship became an affair, became intimate. And Mary Pinchot Meyer told the Truitts that she'd been keeping a diary. So, according to this biography, Meyer and Kennedy reportedly had about 30 trysts, and the claim is that she brought marijuana or LSD to almost all of these meetings. According to Timothy Leary, you know Timothy Leary, the tune-in, turn-on, drop-out guy, the LSD guru, Timothy Leary later claimed that Pinchot Meyer was influencing Kennedy's views on nuclear disarmament and rapprochement with Cuba. And in an interview with Nina Burley, Kennedy aide Meyer Feldman said, "I think he might have thought more of her than some of the other women and discussed things that were on his mind, not just social gossip. Mary might actually have been a force for peace during some of the most frightening years of the Cold War." Now, in '83, Timothy Leary put out a book that claimed that Mary Pinchot Meyer was terrified after the Kennedy assassination, saying that they couldn't control him anymore. This was Leary's biography, Flashbacks, saying that Meyer called him, saying after the assassination, she was sobbing and saying, quote, "They couldn't control him anymore. He was changing too fast. They've covered everything up. I gotta come see you. I'm afraid. Be careful." End quote. And apparently, Pinchot Meyer's plan, according to Leary, was that she was going to supply LSD to Kennedy and other high-ranking members of Washington society and politics to open their minds and get them to realize that the detente of the Cold War was ridiculous and that they needed to, seek out methods of peace. So this leads Timothy Leary to believe that she was killed due to her diarying of her trysts with Kennedy, the use of pot and LSD and so forth. On October 12th, 1964, she had finished doing a painting, and then took a walk down the road in Georgetown. A mechanic heard a woman cry out, "Someone help me, someone help me," heard 2 gunshots, ran and saw a black man in a light jacket, dark slacks, and a dark cap standing over the body of a white woman. Minutes later, a disheveled African-American man named Raymond Crump was arrested near the murder scene. No gun was ever found. No gun was ever linked to Crump as far as the gun that was used to murder Mary Pinchot Meyer. And he was acquitted of all charges on July 29th, 1965. The murder of Mary Pinchot Meyer remains unsolved. Interesting to think about. President Kennedy may have been taking LSD to figure out why we need to seek peace in America. But maybe we'll never know. No definitive proof. Timothy Leary's dead now. Most everybody involved is dead now. Do you think JFK did LSD? Something to think about. We'll be right back.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com.
Меня зовут Дани Данько. Я редактор журнала High Times. Отвечаю за отдел культивации, или, проще говоря, выращивания. Приглашаем вас в Амстердам с 24 по 28 ноября, чтобы посетить ежегодный турнир Cannabis Cup, уже 26-й по счету. Там мы сравним множество видов марихуаны и гашиша из местных кофешопов. Еще у нас там выставка товаров, семинары по выращиванию, ночные концерты и вручение премии за лучшие в мире сорта марихуаны. Хотите получить 10% скидку со стоимости билета? Используйте промокод DANYKO на сайте cannabiscup.com. Ждем вас!
Tokers, there's no good reason to get your dog stoned. While it might not harm them physically, imagine being a dog who already begs for treats all day, and then imagine that dog having the munchies. Not cool.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Rockin' Friday, featuring rock, metal, and the hard edge of alternative country. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back, everybody. Time for us to get into Rockin' Friday, and at this time I'd be turning the reins over to Herb Thrasher, but he hasn't called in yet. You know, he does this segment from work. He actually takes time out of his work to be able to call in, and just could be that he couldn't get away at this time, so we are just going to take care of doing the Rockin' Friday for you. This is Disenchanter with Rainbows.
Desde la revista High Times, te invitamos a venir a Ámsterdam desde el 24 al 28 de noviembre al 26 aniversario de nuestro Cannabis Cup, donde demostraremos las muchas variedades de marihuana y hachís en los coffee shops. También tendremos una exposición de productos, seminarios de sembradíos, conciertos en las noches y una ceremonia de premios donde honramos la mejor marihuana del mundo. ¡Vámonos!
What makes something funny? How does humor impact health and psychological well-being? How can you incorporate humor into everyday life? A concise, reader-friendly introduction to an important but often underappreciated topic in modern psychology, Humor 101 explains the role of comedy, jokes, and wit in the sciences and discusses why they are so important to understand. Psychology professor Dr. Mitch Earleywine draws from his personal experiences in stand-up comedy to focus on how humor can regulate emotion, reduce anxiety, and diffuse tense situations, expose pretensions, build personal relationships, and much more. He irreverently debunks the pseudoscience on the topic of humor and leaves readers not only funnier, but better informed. It's part of the Psych 101 series from Springer Publishing, Humor 101 by Dr. Mitch Earleywine, Ph.D. Got a comment, question, complaint, or request for 420radio.org? Visit our contact page at 420radio.org/contact today.
The cannabis community includes a diverse set of activists and nonprofits working to end the prohibition of marijuana. We take the time to hear the stories of reform on the Russ Belville Show's Cannabis Community Chat.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Half past the hour, and we're looking forward to a conversation with little brave Michaela on today's show. Was to be calling in here at half past, but haven't received a call. There was a difficulty with my Skype, but I've gotten that reset, and the number is working just fine now. So we are not getting the call so far. I hope we get the call sometime in this hour or maybe the next hour. I guess in the meantime, we'll just have to move on to other portions of the show. So please stick around. Listening to the Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. When we come back, we'll have time for a radical rant. Stick around.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
I'm Sub Cool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Once again, folks, item J343 is the Surfing Monkey Coin Bank. It's great for graduations, wedding gifts, and I believe we sold out on this one last time, so please do not let this one pass you by. Now let's go to caller Scott in Nashville.
Hello.
Now, Scott, I understand you just bought 15 of our Surfing Monkey Banks. Is that true?
Yeah. Chill, man. I'm on TV.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook wove all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years. They've got mandatory sentences, and these judges just say, they throw up their hands and say, there's nothing we can do, there's mandatory sentences. We've got to take a look at what we're considering crimes.
When the Reverend Pat Robertson from television's The 700 Club
criminalizing marijuana, criminalizing the possession of a few ounces of pot and that kind of thing, I mean, it's just...
makes more sense on the marijuana issue than the President, the Congress, and the Supreme Court.
It's costing us a fortune, and it's ruining young people. The young people go into prisons, they come out, they go in as youths, and they come out as hardened criminals, and it's not a good thing.
You know we're winning.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant. This circular firing squad shit must stop. This morning I was engaged in a Facebook discussion with Mickey Martin, who asked me to go fuck myself. Now, I've tried for years, but I lack the flexibility. At issue was his outrage that I asked a question about his new group, Parents for Pot. I asked the same question to Moms for Marijuana and Parents for Responsible Cannabis Use. I wanted to know what their stand was on the labeling of marijuana-infused edibles, particularly candy bars, since Mickey had been busted for selling Butterfingers and other medicated items that look very similar to regular candy bars. Well, this devolved into a whole bunch of accusations and name-calling, primarily that I was asking this question to embarrass Martin and impugn his fledgling group as a form of attack to distract from and defend Moms for Marijuana. I wasn't. I kind of thought it was a legit question, even if it was a little uncomfortable. I mean, I do that from time to time. I will ask leaders in the marijuana movement the uncomfortable questions, like I did with Paul Stanford when he was trying to run Oregon's Measure 80, and I thought it was a legitimate question to ask a guy with a breaking news story about a major tax lien, whether he was the appropriate guy to run a tax and regulate campaign. I embarrassed and made stammer Steve Fox from MPP, well, he used to be with MPP, when he came to Oregon on a junket in January to convince us all to wait till 2016 for legalization, and I pressed him on 2014 with some stats and figures that made him hem and haw. I still play Andrew Myers from Arizona MPP when I questioned him about the 25-mile halo rule that he said, quote, would guarantee a market for the dispensaries. I still play that from time to time. I've been pretty consistent about asking tough questions of people in leadership positions that might make them feel uncomfortable, but apparently, because of the timing of the question and who I'm associated with, Martin assumed that it was some kind of attack from me. Now, truth is, I don't know Mickey Martin. I vaguely recall him from my days working with Normal when people at Normal told me to stay away from him. I had heard from Cheryl that he was writing some pretty nasty shit about her up on his Cannabis Warrior blog, but I'd never went out to read it because I'm trying to stay out of all this melodrama. I had known about the tainted ink case from back in the day about selling the candy bars that looked like Butterfingers and Nutrageous bars and so on. But I hadn't put the two together. I didn't realize Mickey Martin was the guy with the whole tainted ink thing until I started Googling Parents for Pot and Mickey Martin and found some links that led me to the DEA bust page. So given that I discovered that, oh my God, here's a guy starting a parents group, and one of the things parents are really concerned about is marketing to kids,
And here he was marketing candy bars that looked like medicated candy bars that looked like candy bars. I thought it was just an appropriate question to ask, but apparently I'm some sort of asshole. So, this whole mom situation is also pretty volatile. Most of the board has quit amid accusations that the founder, Sarah Frank, never filed nonprofit paperwork or misappropriated donated funds. Now, in a standard organizational situation like that, the board would take such heinous allegations to a court of law. At the very least, they would work out their issues in private and try to not damage the movement as a whole by airing the dirty laundry in public. But this is the marijuana movement. So everybody quit and began blasting out hate piece after hate piece on every blog and Facebook they could, rallying the cheers of the people who already agreed with them, and confusing and turning off anyone who might have been looking into any of their organizations. As if the Maradrama wasn't already cranked to 11, that's when Cheryl Schumann comes in. Now, if you want to blame anyone for Cheryl Schumann being in the marijuana movement, blame me. Because I was the one who recruited her for NORML. I sensed that, here's someone who has the ability to get our message out in front of millions of eyeballs on TV, onto shows where marijuana isn't the main focus, and in front of an audience that isn't seeking out hard news generally or marijuana news specifically. Yes, I'd prefer that Ethan Nadelman or Alan St. Pierre or Rob Campia, Mason DeVert, Steph Shearer, or any of those people were the ones spreading our message in front of millions of eyeballs. But the best media exposure they get is 1/3 of an 8-minute news segment on a cable news channel or a local and TV radio interview. Yeah, they get the occasional news magazine appearance or national public radio piece, but those go out to high information voters. We need the housewife watching daytime TV to be on our side. And it turns out my instincts were right. Cheryl's been on The View, Ricky Lake, Dr. Phil, Piers Morgan, CNN, BBC, New Zealand, and many more media outlets. And that whole time she could have been promoting Beverly Hills NORML on those shows, but many of our California leaders shrieked when they read some of the internet hate about her and forced me to let her go. If she was still a NORML leader, perhaps they could have been shaping her message and promoting their org. But instead, she's left to shape her own message and promote her own sponsors' products. So, in that context, and having defended Cheryl many times, I get a tweet from her this morning that she's going to be on Huffington Post Live to discuss Moms for Marijuana. Excellent! Excellent, I thought. Perhaps now we can see how one can promote marijuana legalization to a huge audience in a professional manner and motivate parents to understand legalization is in their best interests. I thought wrong. The first question from HuffPost Live had to do with their story that they ran on Mickey Martin's Parents for Pot, and the first words out of Cheryl's mouth were all about disparaging him and his organization, including unfounded allegations of using meth and running ephemophilic pot parties. By the way, ephebophilia is the sexual attraction to pubescent yet underage girls, just in case you were wondering. Look that up today, too. But anyway, accuse him of running these meth parties and trying to seduce underage girls. It's just heinous, uncalled for, insane, ridiculous. And most of the segment then devolved into Cheryl doing everything she could do to slam Parents for Pot. Now, much like Chris Rock said of O.J. Simpson, I can't condone what she did, but I understand it. Cheryl receives metric ass loads of shit on the internet day after day after day for about the past 20 years. Now, maybe some of it's deserved. Maybe some of it's not. But whatever, it's led her to have a siege mentality. And I've been counseling her for years. Don't let the hate get to you. Let it roll off your back. You're bigger than this. Ignore the trolls. Don't feed the trolls. Don't feed the trolls. And what did she do? She fed the trolls a whole fucking buffet. But apparently she feels that, hey, if the internet hordes are going to savage her all over the court of public opinion, why not just savage them back? And sadly for them and for all of us, she's got a way bigger megaphone and many more supporters. But condone it, I do not. I do not at all condone what she said today. Cheryl was grossly out of line in that interview, and frankly, I feel a little ashamed for her. For her to sink to the internet troll lowest common denominator was unworthy of our mission and message. That's right, our mission and message. The great unwashed masses out there don't distinguish between all these groups. We're just the pot legalizers. And every blog, Facebook, and interview where we spew invective and hurl accusations at our groups and our leaders just shows the mainstream how kooky, juvenile, unprofessional, paranoid, and hateful the pot legalizers are. Cheryl, it would have been very easy to just answer the parents for pot question with, well, I'm happy other groups agree that cannabis-using parents are good, responsible parents. I'm actually part of Moms for Marijuana, which blah, 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 blah. You could have just ignored the whole thing and spent the whole rest of that segment talking about how parents need to recalibrate their thinking about marijuana and how prohibition is more harmful to their kids than legalization. But instead, we spend the next 5 minutes learning about the issue of who hates who and this person's a bad guy and don't trust this one and all that maridrama bullshit. And yes, I know, people are going to come out of the woodwork and accuse me of hypocrisy. Well, Russ, you were against the No on I-502 people. You were against the No on Prop 19 people. Yeah, those were groups allied with maintaining prohibition at the time. And now that they don't, do you see me going off on them? Do you see me going off on anyone who continues to support legalization? In Washington State right now, they're trying to run a initiative now to get the home grow and get all that going. Not disparaging those guys. The only ones I'm still ragging on are the ones who are still hanging on to their defeat from 2012 and still trying to sabotage the legalization of marijuana. It's just a shame because most of the people I work with, most of the people I deal with in the marijuana movement understand the difference between I disagree with you and you're an asshole. But apparently some people don't. Look, I wish Cheryl and Moms for Marijuana all the best in the world, and I hope sincerely she takes my advice and refrain from bashing other orgs and their leaders in the future. And despite him asking me to go fuck myself, I wish Mickey Martin and Parents for Pot all the best too, because we need all the positive groups we can get and all the activists we can get. And I wish people who smoke pot and want it legal would recognize there are plenty of assholes who don't want legalization to distract from any assholes who do want legalization. Let's keep a focus on what this fight is about. If you ain't got nothing nice to say about the other orgs or leaders, don't say nothing at all. Refocus that energy toward a prohibitionist and work to promote your group and make your group strong and respectable for the rest of us. Enough with this internet backbiting and I have provable allegations and this person's an asshole and this person stole and this person did a terrible thing to this person and they promised this and this didn't happen and oh, we didn't get what we were deserved. Fuck that shit. It's time for it to stop. We are in the precipice of getting the American people on our side for legalization of marijuana, not just in the West Coast, but freaking Texas is voting 58% for this stuff now. And we want to devolve this into a whole bunch of he said, she said, you're a dick, you're an asshole, fuck you stuff. It's no wonder some of you people aren't getting any major support for your initiatives, aren't getting any major backing, any major funding, any serious support from mainstream orgs. They take one look at this stuff and they realize they don't want to wade into this kind of maridrama. And frankly, I'm getting a little sick of wading through this maridrama too. If there's one thing I've learned from this whole debacle, it's that if there were investigative journalists who actually hated pot, who knows as much as I know about this movement, and wanted to write a book exposing it all, man, not only would it be a bestseller, but it'd bring our poll numbers down 5, 10, maybe even 15 points. I didn't want to have to go out on the weekend on this kind of rant. So many of the people involved in this maridrama are people I love and respect. People who I know have their heart in the right place, who are trying to do everything in their power to end marijuana prohibition in this country, trying to do it their own particular way. But through all of this sniping and backbiting and character assassination and attacks and trials in the court of public opinion aren't doing us any good. I've had it with the whole thing. I will pledge now to try to recapture my focus, try to let the trolls slide by and not feed them. Try to ignore the haterade and try to do good work. Thanks for supporting it. And I'm going to go to this video here just to try to give myself some time. We'll be right back.
From places that are lush and green like Denver, Colorado and Seattle, Washington. I was actually in Seattle the night of the election when marijuana became legal there, and then the next day was on a plane to Denver and marijuana was legal there. It was just an amazing time to know that you could fly to 2 states in America and weed would be legal when you got on the plane and weed's legal when you get off the plane. Woo! Kind of a difficult fight, unlike the fight for, say, civil rights in, you know, the black community, Latino community, the gay community, is that a lot of our community's underground. Oh, yeah. A lot of our community can't come up to the surface. I like to call us the iceberg of marijuana. Most people outside of our, you know, realm only see the very tip of the iceberg. Hippies and dreadlocks and piercings and stuff. The artists, the musicians, the people who either have nothing to lose or are self-sufficient enough that they can go ahead and express themselves without worrying about losing a job. But below that waterline are the teachers and the plumbers and the librarians and the police officers who smoke marijuana and want it legal, but are afraid to be out here and be open about it because they fear for their job or their security clearance or their kids or their property or whatever it might be. So first of all, give yourselves a hand for celebrating this because you're open and honest. Coming out and showing that we're decent, law-abiding, except for maybe one law, but law-abiding citizens that pay taxes, go to work, raise their kids, and so forth. And the other thing I like to point out is sometimes when you're a marijuana activist, there's kind of this attitude from some people like, oh, legalizing pot. oh, yeah, you just want to get high. Yeah, that's how cute. Why don't you work on something important? You know, like curing cancer or ending crime and poverty, solving the energy crisis. And that's when I say, yeah, right. I am. That's exactly what I'm doing. Marijuana, THC, has been shown in petri dishes since 1974 to kill cancer cells. Every diesel engine on this planet can run on hemp seed oil with no conversion whatsoever. Hemp plants take in carbon dioxide that's heating up this planet. Hemp seed is the most biologically nutritious food you can give to a human being. I am working on those problems, and so are you.
Yeah! Spread it!
The other thing about this is I always like to point out that this is a civil rights battle.
Yeah.
And it's very hard. It's very hard to point out any other issue that affects the Bill of Rights, all 10 of your basic rights under the Constitution, more than the drug war. Let's tick them off, shall we?
Yes, we
Number
shall.
1, First Amendment. Freedom of speech, we're doing that. Freedom of assembly, we're doing that. But in Washington, Colorado, they're talking about restricting the freedom of speech of the businesses that sell marijuana as with regard to their advertising. I haven't seen Budweiser or Viagra been restricted in their advertising. But marijuana has to go under special rules. First Amendment, freedom of religion. Unless you're a Rastafarian, because your sacrament's too popular.
Or a celebrate.
Freedom of the press. How many different outlets that have tried to tell the truth about marijuana? High Times, the Daily Doobie. The government tried to put them behind the counter like porno. Because, God forbid, the kids see a pot plant. They might think it's natural. How about our Second Amendment? The right to bear arms. Unless you're growing pot or possess pot, because they're not allowed to have firearms, because they're drug addicts. In my home state of Oregon, we had to fight all the way to the Supreme Court to allow medical marijuana patients to merely have a concealed weapons permit. Not even the weapon necessarily, just the permit. They were trying to shut that down because of federal law that says you can't give firearms to drug addicts. Medical marijuana patients, people. Your Third Amendment right is the right to not have soldiers quartered in your home during wartime except under law or under peacetime for any reason. Okay, so they haven't violated that one. But they can put a GPS device on your car in your private driveway if they suspect you of being a marijuana grower with no warrant and without telling you. So that seems to me a little worse than putting a soldier in my home. That's somebody tracking my everyday movement. Fourth Amendment right against search and seizure. What do you think a drug test is but search and seizure?
Yeah.
How about the people who are patted down on a stop and frisk in New York, who lose their Fourth Amendment rights day after day after day for the mere smell of marijuana? Fifth Amendment, your right against self-incrimination. Well, what's a drug test? But you incriminating yourself that you committed the crime of using marijuana. Sixth Amendment right to a speedy trial. Roger Christie, an activist from Hawaii, is in jail now for going on 4 years with no bail because he ran a pot church. Like he was some big kingpin dealer. He ran a pot church. 4 years without a trial so far in a holding cell. They won't give him bail. Seventh Amendment is your right in civil suits. If someone does you wrong, you can sue them. How do you sue your dealer when he shorts your bag? You can't because it's an illegal market. In a legal market, if someone shorts my bag, I can call Weights and Measures to come in there and bust them or revoke their license. Eighth Amendment right is the right against cruel and unusual punishment. Richard Floor, Montana medical marijuana patient, arrested for running a dispensary, was not given the medication he needed, died in a prison cell. Jonathan Magby, Washington, D.C. medical marijuana patient, was not given the medicine he needed to survive, died in a prison cell. What is more cruel and unusual punishment than putting someone in a cage over a plant the Founding Fathers grew?
Thank you.
Your Ninth Amendment right. Your Ninth Amendment right is one that a lot of people don't know. It's one that says the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights is not meant to disparage or deny the rights otherwise held by the people. Let me translate from 18th century. What they were saying is, just because we wrote down a bunch of shit, that doesn't mean that's all your rights. We can't write them all down. The right to breathe air, the right to have sex, the right to eat a delicious meal. They couldn't write it all down. And I think if we're a country founded by hemp farmers, how could there not be a natural right to farm hemp? How could a bunch of guys running an agrarian economy built on agriculture, farming hemp, requiring hemp as payment for taxes, how could they possibly imagine that anyone would deny that? They didn't write it down because it was absurd. That would be like denying people the right to drink ale. It would have been just as absurd to them. And finally, the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment is the states' rights. The rights that are not eliminated in the Constitution are reserved for the states or to the people. 20 states now have said we're going to allow medical use of cannabis. 2 states now have said we'll allow adult use of cannabis. And finally, our Senate, our government has heard us and has said we're going to allow this to go on. But it hasn't gone far enough. All 10 of these rights are under attack as long as marijuana is illegal. Medical doesn't go far enough. Decrim doesn't go far enough. Until a joint is no more big a deal than a can of beer, we are...
All right, folks, thanks for tuning in here, and sorry we didn't get the call in from Brave Michaela. I apologize for that. We hope to get her on the show again sometime soon. Stay tuned for Hour 2 Toker Talk Radio, where we'll take your calls at 971-533-7111. And I don't know what we'll talk about. Maybe I'll wade you through some of the haterade I get to deal with every day. Get an idea how well paid I am for this job. Like I say, pay sucks, but the fringe benefits kick ass. That's all the time we got for today. Thanks for joining us. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
Take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you